Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're at. Welcome, comic fans and especially Phantom fans. This is Ghost Warrior 38, and today I will be reviewing the Phantom Generations Issue 6, or Chapter 6, Hellfire, which is written by Stephen Hawkinsmith and art is done by Scott Brooks. This is the story of the sixth Phantom, but sadly he doesn't play that big of a role. This is actually all about somebody else. This is about a guy, and I'm probably going to butcher his name. It's a Guy du Solier, who's French, but he's also a pirate. But doing some reading and doing some research on the wiki and online, a lot of the events that happen between the 6th and 7th Phantom can be swapped with one another. So they may not be. So some of this may actually have been done by the 7th Phantom. But anyway, that being aside, I'm just going to go with each issue is supposed to be its designated Phantom, so issue 6 will be the 6th Phantom, issue 7, 7th Phantom, and so on and so forth. But opening this up, like I said, our book actually mostly revolves around this Guy du Solier. He's a pirate, and he has an encounter with the Phantom, and he has been marked, and it basically torments him. He carries 3 scars from his encounter with the Phantom, 2 that he could never hide, and the 3rd that he could never reveal, for it was on his soul. He was taking orders from an Admiral Scratch. Do your worst, lads, as they are basically pillaging and plundering a town, so basically what pirates normally do. Show them why they call our ship the Hellfire. He gets his gun knocked out of his hand by the Phantom, piercing his flesh, then screamed louder when he saw he had hold of the hilt. He'd only half believed the tales and the specter that haunted Bengala, the wraith that slipped out of the jungles. He knew he was here now. It was the Phantom. There was no disembodied spirit. It was a demon in flesh or an avenging angel. And our first illustration here is of Admiral Scratch ordering his men, and we see the Phantom at the top. The Phantom basically terrorizes the crew and Admiral Scratch. He's like, back to the Hellfire, lads. No one defies me. Mark my words, Bengala will be ash by the time I come back. So the Phantom basically has him on the run, has him on retreat. Worse yet, the purple modded scar high on his left cheek just below the flesh was the mark of the Phantom. He wore it like a brand, one that seared not just his flesh but his soul. So basically, this guy is haunted by the Phantom. And the next day, they are pillaging. They capture a man and his daughters, but I'm getting a little bit farther into it. Here's the next page. Here's another illustration. That's him actually punching Guy. We got a passenger here, Admiral, a gentleman by the looks of him. We'll see what ransom it warrants. Admiral. And then it's a bunch of other stuff happens. They basically come back, and that's a scene from the first battle, beginning of the book. He torments him in his dreams when he sleeps at night. And like I said, during their pillaging, they capture him on a ship and crew. They capture a father and his 2 children. They captured an English ambassador and his children. We mustn't dispose of our spoils, lads. Du Solier, nursemaid or guest for the night, would ye? Something tells me women's work suits you just fine these days. It's like, aye, Admiral. You see savages, see Phantom, you'll never be free of the Hellfire. Never. And he was still raiding the coast while Guy was basically playing nursemaid to the kids. And this goes on about their pillaging and plundering of another merchant vessel. and a lot of this is basically describing the action that takes part in the fighting scene. I won't really go into much detail about it. And then Guy ends up, as when he was with the girl, with the kids, he gets, they toss another guy in. This is Kit Walker, the fourth Phantom. That's Mr. Walker. He came aboard this morning when we stopped for supplies. He was on his way to England, like us. Our mother died last month, and father thought it best if... Her words tapered off into tears. Her brother tried to comfort her, but was sobbing himself. Stop your caterwauling, Guy snapped. You'll be all right. As long as I'm here, he didn't add, and as long as Scratch doesn't change his mind. Collecting ransom can be a tricky business. The boy and girl were crying, and it tore at his nerves. He stalked deep into the hold, as far from the children's huddled forms as he could. Then he spun and sat in a pool of utter black, his back against the mast step. His axe rested on his lap, with a good hand wrapped around the handle. Oh yeah, because at some point this time he gotten his hand burned, so his hand was damaged in the pillaging and plundering. His other hand lay at his side uselessly, the wound itching so badly that it burned. Guy didn't mind the pain so much. It would keep him awake. He was dreaming, always the same dream, and that was of the pit scene that I showed you guys earlier at the beginning of the book. The Phantom, the guy could see the ghost more... So yeah, needless to say, he's having some problems. I need to say there's problems. There's some noise going around, and then basically Kit disappears while he goes to investigate. Then later, Guy goes to check it out. He sees the Phantom. And a grin. It wasn't an evil leer. The Phantom was stretching out toward him, leaning down to save him. And after he woke, a loud thump. Guy stared at the steps to the forecastle, listening intently. There it is again. The noises he heard earlier. Rum-soaked pirates taking drunken inventory of their booty were gone. There was only silence. Then another thump. He glanced over at the prisoners. The children were slumped against the hull. And the injured fop. He's gone. Hello? Who's there? And then there's no answer. Basically, he finds out the crew are knocked out cold, and the Phantom is basically responsible for that. The ghost who walks. Scattered behind the forecastle door were spilled out clothes, boots, and bottles from the merchantmen, and mixed in with the debris crewmen slumped and bodied. Tell Scratch I'm coming topside, the Phantom said, his voice a low rumble that builds into a thunderous boom. And when I'm here, his ship burns. Admiral, he's coming, he's coming. Basically, he hauled up the stairs to tell him about it. Who's coming? And if it be any guest of Jehovah himself, I'll be ye Neilhald, the ghost who walks. Oh? So basically all hell breaks loose as he wants to start setting the ship on fire. It scoured all hands to decks and man your stations with death in your hands. You lot, dividing his force in half with a swipe of his sword, watch the hatch. The rest of ye stay with me by the companionway. The Phantom's aboard, and he's coming to join us. Whichever way he comes, we'll give him a warm welcome, eh? And maybe the men below stopped him. Phantom didn't appear. Could be. Perhaps ye'd like to go down and check. He's like, nope, I'm not checking. I promised you fire, and now you have it. There he is, lads. Shoot, blast ye, shoot. Kept looking up, tracking the Phantom as they slid down the line from the main mast, and then disappeared into the rigging. And then he goes down to help the kids. And while he's consoling them and trying to help them, he comes down to want to help. I've arranged a little distraction. Guy stopped beside Burke and traded his eyes for an unconscious man's flintlock. Everything's going to be fine, the voice was saying as Guy slinked closer. I've arranged a little distraction for our friends. We'll borrow the dinghy and be gone before the before they even come to check on you. There he was, the ghost who walks, kneeling over the children, setting them free. The back of his shirt was darkened and drenched in sweat, and there was a rip in his tights, high on the thigh. The exposed flesh and blood. Ghosts don't smear, they didn't bleed. This phantom was a man. So he's basically the first to find out that the phantom's actually mortal. The man with exceptional hearing reflexes, the slightest squeak of rotten wood beneath his feet, he whirled around with the dagger at his tip. He's like, don't. The phantom froze and lowered the blade. You can't get away, you know that. Even with the fire on deck, you'd be seen. He looked beyond the phantom and then at the children. Fear of him, a pirate. He knew then why he'd come back, but you might have a chance if you let me help. You help us? Why? He rubbed at the mark with his ruined hand. You could have left me to burn once, but you didn't, and I repay my debts. He doesn't blame the phantom for being cautious. I was like, all right, here's what we'll do. Grab your blades, lads. That devil's sunk back below, so there's where we'll go. And this time, Admiral, come quickly. He spoke to me again. He wants a parley on the gun deck. If he wants a parley, it's a parley he'll get with this. At the end, his crew and the children. Dozen kegs of gunpowder. They'd broken open one. The deck was black with powder. You're going to let us go, Scratch. If you don't, this whole place will be set to burn. You blow up the ship and yourselves with it. Pure bluff. Tell your men to clear a path for us. Tell them if they don't, everyone dies. And then he tossed the torch. Don't do that. The phantom did it again. This time he caught it with 2 feet from the floor. He's like, stop it! So he's basically scaring the living daylights out of this captain, trying to want to blow up the ship. And Admiral Scratchy words like, hear me, lads, I grant safe passage to our guests. No one shall interfere with their departure under pain of death. Now go. No man, Jack, will dare lay a finger on you. That, I believe, the phantom said. Guy, Dusalier, have you lost your mind? He stretched out his left hand, the good one. Are you still sure? There's no other way. I can't row a boat, but I can hold this. He gave him a nod. I used to think pirates had no souls, the phantom said, provided he was the one who to stay behind. Every man has a soul. Just some forget for a time. That's something I shall remember. Now go. Get out of here. He's like, let's go, kids. You'd be as good as your word. I'll be watching for the dinghy. If I don't see it launch, I drop it. He doesn't trust himself to give a torch a flip, so he simply settled for dipping the flame towards the deck. Tell me 'tis a trick. Tell me you haven't betrayed your mates. There is no trick. And what's that supposed to happen to you? Did your friend promise to come back for you? He did. And Guy believed it. The phantom would return, and perhaps die trying to get him off the ship. He wouldn't allow that. He couldn't let the Hellfire sail on. And so he switched the torch to his right hand, and he set himself and the ship on fire. And that's the last scene there, as we see the phantom is watching from the shore as Guy and the ship go down in flames. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the book. There's an ad here for Double Shot KGB Noir, the Phantom Chronicles, which are more of the stories from the Generations book, the one-shot with Julie Walker, and The Spider. I have this on order. Really looking forward to reading that. I've seen that from at my local comic shop, but it's been a little while. And anyway, that's about the end of that. So I hope you guys like this little look at the Phantom Generations. It's kind of a bummer that this wasn't really a Phantom-focused story. It focused on this former pirate, but it's basically about his redemption and wanting to help the Phantom and help the kids escape, which I can appreciate and respect, but I was hoping for a Phantom-focused story, as with each of these other 5 books have been. But overall, this was an alright read, but it didn't appeal to me as much as the other books. So with that being said, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd probably give this about a 3.5 out of 5. And yeah. almost 4 stars. The story was good, the art was fine, but it's just the fact of the lack of the Phantom being a part of it. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video, and be sure to stay up to date on all other Phantom-related content that I'll be bringing out to you. Click that like if you enjoyed this, comment below, and subscribe, and be sure to turn your bell notification on and settings on to all. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys next time with another video. So until then, take care, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, and peace.